Good. Hi, and welcome to A Century of Action with Stuart, Stephen Clifford, and Mike Foong. Say hi, Mike.
Hey Stuart, how are you? Hi everybody. It's good to be on the show. Being this is really social distancing. We are kind of like 9,000 kilometers away. So
Yes, we couldn't be further apart. So, so, for those of you who don't know myself, I'm a fight director. I have over 10 years of experience in theatre fight choreography, and I've been teaching stage combat to actors roughly the same amount of time. I started doing action films about 7 years ago, and it continues to be of interest to me. Today, I will be interviewing a new friend of mine, Mike, who I just met, who you just met, and he has a lot of experience in action films and stunt coordination. The first film, Stunts, can be traced back to the early silent slapstick films. Not easy to say. These silent films relied on visual humour to entertain, leading many actors of the time to try new and increasingly dangerous methods of getting a reaction. One of the most iconic scenes, which you can find on YouTube, is Steamboat Bill Jr., 1928, Buster Keaton. Check that out. So now we're going to skip forward a century later. So Mike, perhaps you could give us a quick rundown on your experience in regards to TV, film and stunt work. I know you've been a stunt coordinator and worked as a stuntman. Have you worked in any other roles?
yeah, so I have been doing films and acting since I was like 10. My first introduction to acting was a martial arts academy type film. Is similar to what people are doing right now in the lockdown, where people are teaching, yoga and teaching martial arts over Zoom. And I was actually it was an advertisement for Halle Orange. This was like when I was 10, that was 30 years ago. So that's like 1990s, 80s, around that time. Well, Halle Orange is no longer around. You can't even search for it's a cordial, it's an orange cordial that's being sold before. And the promotion is to teach people how to do Taekwondo on Sunday mornings like this, where we show certain stunts or rather certain punches and kicks around how you actually execute some of these things on TV as a promotion for Halle Orange. I even have the special uniform made for that was given by production company. However, we did what we call a little bit of skits to see self-defense on TV. So we did a lot bit of fighting, but at that time we were kids. I was like almost 10 years old, so it was easier to just kick around, have fun, just play around with other people. And they wanted to show a 10-year-old kid beating up a 20-year-old teenager or a 20-year-old adult on TV. So it's that's what they call movie entertainment value for that. So they put that skit in. So I did some of my early stunt work that way, and early introduction to film, early introduction to advertising and acting in that case. So from there, it kind of merged to other aspects of demonstrations of martial arts on live TV, on national TV in Malaysia when I was there. Because I was part of the national team in the Taekwondo national team for many years, and part of the team, today martial arts has changed a lot. We kind of split in various in various what do you call competition modes right now. One is called pattern competition, where you actually demonstrate how well you do a certain stance or a certain block or a certain punch properly, and you have to do it like what they do in wushu, where you demo, you act around and you do a bit of acrobatics and stuff like that. And they split that with sparring. I'm basically a fighter most of the time. I compete in fighting competitions, and rather than the demonstration, the one that looks good and all that kind of stuff. But when I was training Taekwondo at that time, it was very, it was essential that we learn patterns, because on our off days like this, when we when we're locked down on a weekend, when we're not really building up any strength training, we do the patterns to keep ourselves warm and keep ourselves in touch with the art itself, stretching and stuff like that. So sorry, to come back to the question, I moved a lot of I did a lot of short films before coming down to Singapore. When I came down to Singapore, I saw quite a few opportunities to act, and I went for auditions for that. My very first acting gig in Singapore was for Ilo Ilo, which eventually, which to my surprise as well, won the best film in Cannes Film Festival. I think in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. You had to Google that. I don't really remember. Was at the premiere for that, not in Cannes, but in Singapore, the cheaper version in a sense. And from then, I've done quite a bit. I think some people in Singapore would actually know some short, small roles for Our Boys to Men. And then the next phase of things was, then I met quite a number of people, including Sunny Pang and Douglas Lam, who actually was running this other stunt group. And they were actually, and Sunny was starring for this show called Resolve. And Resolve was supposed to be a Singapore police action film. Part of that, they decided to hire a few stunt people who knows martial arts. And I was one of the people who auditioned for that. But as budget is always tight, stunt people are always reused, and you will see that in many examples in many films that stunt actors will have to be killed 10 times. I was killed 6 times on the show, so I was reused 6 times. I changed a different mask, different jacket, and there we go, do another fight scene. But the problem is, as hostiles, as stunt people, we don't really do long fight scenes in Singapore. We are basically 4 men, right? We just go in there, get punched, fall down, then that's one take. And they use it in the film. There weren't a lot of long takes in the film itself. There was 2, as I remember. One was a shipyard scene where we were fighting the cops, and we were doing a shootout with guns. And the other one was on the ship in that. And on top of that, I did quite a bit of acting and always being the stunt, being the one that's supposed to look tough. I play a lot of gangster roles. I think somebody even asked for a very specific show reel for just gangster roles. I think I have it on YouTube somewhere, where I've done in Channel 8. That's the first gangster role I got from a Chinese mini series, and that was just chasing down a couple of people with knives and machetes, or what they call parangs. I was trained in short knives, and one of my favorites are actually what they call martial art weapons, and I do that quite a bit. I train in short knives and swords, things like I practice this thing called kumdo, which is a Korean art of sword. It's not very different from kendo, but Korean style. The only difference is that the Korean swords are a little bit longer than the samurai katanas in that sense. So there's a little bit of a difference in terms of how you manage the sword. So and that's where I get some of this training from there. Other roles that I've gotten in, that I played with was in Netflix. In Netflix, Marco Polo, as part of the villagers that were in there. I played a Japanese soldier with a Japanese film called Joker Game, also doing a bit of stunts because they wanted a person that looks Japanese, but looks Japanese and be able to fall at the same time as well. I was a soldier in that film. So, and same thing, being a fall guy is usually you stand in a formation, and there's a sniper taking you out. And I was the only Japanese, quote unquote Japanese looking actor in there that I had to die like 4 or 5 times as well, getting shot 6 times. I worked with a different stunt team then, which is also in Singapore. They, I think I heard from you, Stuart, that they have moved out. They were the stunt team for the Universal Studios Action Horizon. They were hired to be the stunt coordinators for Joker game. That was filmed in Batam, which I went there over to shoot on the set there. And yeah, so that is quite common that I've done. I've been on Channel 5 quite a bit in some of the short mini series. I was an actor and a stunt coordinator and a stunt director and a short role for 2025, which is a sci-fi documentary series for Channel 5. In there, played the head of an organization and a stunt guy at the same time, and a fall guy. So again, budgets are tight. People all know that. So we died many times in any role that we play. So be prepared. If you're doing stunt, be prepared to learn to die. That's probably, I feel, that's the most used skill that you need in the stunt industry in Singapore.
Fantastic. And my next question for you, Mike, is what advice would you give to a filmmaker who is planning to include an action scene in their film? For example, what should the basic shot structure be for, say, a short fight scene?
So if you look at screen and screenwriting, they are basically the same. You are overcoming obstacles. You need to know where you're coming in from a scene and where you're going out from a scene, and where do you pass off the scene from one scene to another, and how the action plays an important part in your story, right? So you need to understand where your actors are coming from, why they are overcoming the obstacles that they have. You have to look at, and each obstacle, what action needs to be put in place to overcome that obstacle. If you need, there are tons of examples out there with the famous ones like Jackie Chan and stuff like that. You will see he takes a different approach to the structure that he does. He overcomes things by comedy and action, and allow them to be unique in that sense. And the way we are looking at some of this stuff, we have to make sure that we look at how we are treating the film and the flow of the film that you're looking at, in terms of how you are overcoming that. Who are you fighting? Why you're fighting the person? How they come in? We look at the same thing, and most of the time we look at how we see whether it's a core fight scene, or it's just something that you need to add onto the action of the film. Like, for example, you're doing a chase scene and you have to kick somebody down, and there's just one cut or one shot of it, and it's easy to do stuff like that. So when you structure it in a way, you have to break down the main fight scenes versus the ones that you need to insert as clips into your action shots that's required. I don't know whether that answers your questions, Stuart.
Sure.
I know you have some thoughts on that as well, in terms of structuring.
Yes, I guess when I talk about basic structure, I'm talking more about a bit of a longer fight scene. So I would recommend to start and finish with a wide angle shot, and you could have over the shoulder shots reversing in the middle, just to give a general structure. But
Okay.
Sorry, Mike, I know something you love, which is my next question for you. Who sells the action, Mike? Is it the hero?
I've thought about this question a lot. There are two aspects of it. One is that there is some form of selling from the action, from the hero at one point, but most of the action is sold from the stunt person point of view, or from the victim, or the person that you are being antagonized from, is the one that's selling the action. Like, for example, if someone pulls the hair, the hero doesn't really hang on to like a real, like you're really holding on to the hair. You actually release it a bit, in the sense that you let the stunt actor react to the action that is being done. So, for example, if you're doing a punch, usually in most of the films that you see, you punch with an angle that you always block, that you always always cutting across the face. But because the camera, usually when you punch, you don't see the person punching the victim, or the stunt person. The stunt person had to sell it in a way that he has to turn his face at the right moment, had to groan, or had to show a face that he's being hit at the right time, and your neck will snap very often. So at one point, the main selling is from the victim's point of view, and hence that's why they say, the bad guys usually have the best lines, have the best action, because they do all the work, but they get paid the least.
Yeah, so you and I have both discussed that it's a good idea to do neck warm-ups when you're the bad guy and you're doing a lot of dying, because you got to do a lot of neck movements, don't you?
Correct. Yeah.
So, Mike,
yeah, sorry.
I also teach set design to theatre students, so I've got a keen interest in prop making.
Right.
Can you share some of your trade secrets for directing props in action scenes?
Sure, definitely. Right. Props, I think one thing to really add to the whole action scene or action shots that you're making is have props, or have around you that you can break, or you can jump over some obstacles that you're actually using, that enhances the shot itself. So there are ways that, and this is a lot of experiment, and having a good stunt coordinator in there will already help, because he already had the experience in terms of how to push, how chairs will fall in a certain way, and you have to direct. And because as a stunt coordinator, you're also you're involved in safety. Safety is your responsibility. It's responsibility of everyone, but you got to make sure that you have to take care of everything, especially the actors, and in many cases the equipment itself, because the equipments are more expensive than the actors themselves, and they can't recover usually. So so I've got shots where the chair will just you hit the chair, and the chair will stop right in front of the camera. And the way to do it, you have to tie the chair to a leverage, or to a fixed point, so that when the chair moves, even when you hit it, it will stop right there, and it doesn't go further. The other aspect is, put a perspex screen in front of the camera where it's transparent, so you can shoot through it. And you have to do that anyway, because just in case there are loose items that you've not seen, especially when you're breaking a chair or breaking a stick over somebody's back like this, and they are flying, and that's the one thing you cannot direct, is the flying debris that cuts across the entire scene, or in that entire camera. But you can control what breaks in a stick. So there are certain points in a stick that that you can cut, that makes it weaker, and it will break in that point. And when it breaks, we can't predict the angle that it will fly to, but that's why you have to have 4 or 5 sticks cut properly, cut in a certain point that you need, and then do a preview or pre-visualization of the shot, and you kind of see where a rough area. Normally we'll cordon off at least 5 to 6 feet of a space where debris might fall, and make sure there's no equipment or expensive equipment or people within there. I once did a film for Sam Low for something called Seal Lab, and we had to throw one of the women actors, or one of the lady actors, across a table, and the table was a expensive table. It was a marble table top that could flip over, and breaking a marble table is expensive. 1, 2, it will hurt a lot of people, especially the camera that's in front of it. And the camera is quite low, in the sense that you're keeping it just above the table, where you can see the actress fly over the table, skips over the table and fall over to the other side. I have to be, because we couldn't lock down the table. I have to go under the table, hug the table legs, and weigh it down. On top of that, I'm holding 2 other sandbags to make sure that it's heavier. We have put down sandbags on the legs of the table to keep it down, to keep it try to keep it as stable as possible. But we know it's not enough. But an 80 kg person hugging the legs and clamping it down makes it easier to hold it down. And even if it flips over, I can actually tilt it back. I was the what they call the there's this term that prevents the shake of a building when an earthquake happens. One of these counterweights or counter reaction. It was that dynamic one, so I couldn't see any other way, so I had hug the table to make sure that it doesn't fall, and make sure the camera doesn't go low enough to see me holding it. And because I couldn't do 2 at the same time, I got somebody to help me with the camera side of things to see that, make sure that when they do hit the table, they don't see me holding the table. Then it will ruin the shot in that sense.
And while you're on the topic of sandbag, you and I have talked about sandbags before. Why don't you tell everyone about the kicking sandbag trick?
Right. So sandbags are wonderful tools to use on set. Not just for weighing down your C-stands and for a cameraman to sit on. It's also great for action shots where you place it in front of the actor. If you're, for example, you're going to do a kicking shot to somebody on the ground who's, and you're trying to kick the hero on the ground or the antagonist on the ground, you can put a sandbag in front of him, in front of the stomach. It depends on where you want to hit the leg, and it's easily hidden. In a sense, it can blend into a lot of environment, and it also, because it's so dark, and even if it's exposed, you can easily hide it or set dress it with a cloth or with boxes that you can put in front of it, or change the angle in a way that the legs covers the sandbag, and you can kick the sandbag instead of kicking the actual person. In that way, the person doesn't need to hold back the strength of kicking, and he can kick with all his might and still not injure the actor itself or the stunt actor.
And another one that I love is how do you do the talcum powder trick, Mike?
Correct. Yeah. So to add effects to the kicks to make it more powerful and looks good on screen as well, is to put talcum powder on your feet, on your shoes. If you have canvas shoes, are great. And if you look at a lot of fight scenes, a lot of stunt actors, a lot of fighting actors, they wear canvas shoes. Canvas absorbs a lot more talcum than leather shoes.
So they put it on the inside, do they?
They put it in the inside and the outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So with canvas shoes, it's easy to have the effect. And most camera tricks that they do is to slow down the shot, have a high speed rate, slow down the shot, so when you kick, not only that it looks good, getting kicked in slow motion, but the powder bursting out from the shoe and the face itself, or whatever body part that you're kicking, becomes it becomes a very good shot.
Fantastic. And my next question to you, what do you think are some common mistakes made by directors when shooting a fight scene?
When you do not plan your shots, your fight shots with your coordinators, with the very first one, adding shots in the middle when you think that you wanted more shots, without first discussing with the actors, first discussing with the stunt coordinators or the choreographers, and it becomes unplanned. Planning is always the main thing for fight scenes, and we focus a lot on the planning because there are a lot of dynamic portions in a fight shot or in an action shot that can't be always anticipated, which is the toughest part of things. So you can't just introduce a shot when you have not planned, and most of the time it gets rejected, especially when you discuss this with a fight director or a stunt director. They will say no straight away when somebody comes in and say, no, can we try this shot, or can we have this additional shot too, right? And
there's reasons for that, isn't there?
Correct, because a lot. I mean, the very first thing is very safety is the main concern. We will not ever do something that is proven to be unsafe for anybody, the actors, the stunt actors, the camera crew. And we have heard of a lot of this, a lot of production companies getting sued. And there's even one in the US where the camera op was standing in front of the train, and the train was going at a certain speed, and she couldn't get out in time, and she got hit by the train and died. And the production company actually shut down because of the lawsuit. So this I mean, it's tragic that someone has to die on set, and we definitely do not want that. But as a stunt actor, you cannot get injuries as well, because when you get injured, you kind of lost the next job, or you can't get involved in the next few jobs as well. And when that happens, the loss of income do happen for a lot of stunt actors. And on top of that, in Singapore, there's no stunt insurance that you can get. You can get something called personal assurance, PA insurance, or personal accident. But then again, it's a very fine line, because nobody, you have to prove that it's an accident and you're not working on a stunt team, which they will not cover.
Yes, I've had a lot of personal experience with directors wanting to change the fight scene on set, and one problem that I've found that's quite common is when you change it, you're not thinking about editing. So when you have a previs, you've got a previs ready, it's all being designed to edit together. Whereas if you start doing things anyhow on set, then can you edit it together? That's the big question.
Correct. You're right, and that's exactly the thing. When you add shots and you're changing shots without planning, it becomes very hard to edit some of these shots that's unplanned, and there's no continuation from the previous shot. Getting punched, especially when actors are not trained for that shot, and you have to choreograph on the spot. It's hard enough for a person who has done martial arts for 30 years. Imagine an actor who has not even done martial arts, for the last 6 months. They only had like a 1 month training to do some fight scenes, and hoping that the stunt or the martial arts stunt person sells all the action for that hero, in that sense. And because there's a certain structure to it, as you mentioned, a certain flow that you create from one shot to another shot. When you punch on the left, and then you have to connect to the next shot. If you add shots that are not planned, it becomes very hard to even tell the story itself. And you wasted time, you waste resources, you waste a lot of people's energy to actually do the shot. And action shots are one of the toughest to shoot, because it takes a lot of energy out of everyone, including the main actors.
Yes,
and you have to. Sorry.
I was going to suggest, I was once on a stuntman on a film, and the choreographer was like the first time, the fight director's first time, and we spent 12 hours rehearsing our fight scenes, and by the time we shot the fight scene, I could barely raise my arm and legs. They were so sore from rehearsing so much. It would have looked much better if we shot it in the first hour instead of rehearsing for 12 hours.
I do understand exactly where you come from, and it happened before that. The previous, or the practice, the rehearsals was way much better than the actual shots itself, because the energy was there, the excitement was there, and by the time they actually do the actual shots, they lost all energy on set. And one thing you really have to remember is that when you do action shots, you have to have a lot of food on set. If not, the easier ones are to get was bananas, which is cheap and widely available for that, and put it on set all the time, because people need those energy to just shoot. And if you lose energy when you actually do your actual shots, the scene or the shots do not sell it. It doesn't come out like you're really getting excited for the fight, or the main thing that we do when we fight, we know that our adrenaline goes up, and therefore we look more puffed, we look more energetic, and we want to just go at it. But when we over rehearse, and we're adding new shots that has never been done before, you lose all that at the end, at the actual shot itself. And in a shot, you will never get a perfect. There's usually never a single take action shot I've seen before. It's usually like 200 takes sometimes. I mean, I'm exaggerating at the moment, but yes, there are a lot of shots for at least for action. And then when you do an action shot, you got. I know there are a lot of creative directors out there, and I applaud that as well. But however, you must understand that certain times, you drain the energy, drain the resources. You have time. You got a lot of things you figure out in terms of doing the action shot. Like when you do a punch on the right, and then you want to do a close up on the actual shot getting hit and stuff like that. And directors will come in and say, okay, could we get one shot this way and then one shot on the right and one shot flowing the hand? And I even had one where the director asked me, could you hold the camera and swing it in front of him and do that? And all this are not being thought about. And you carry a camera that's not used, you're not used to its expensive camera, okay, maybe not expensive, it's a Canon 5D still, but you have not practiced that, and you're doing all that, and you want creative shots like this, and you have not planned it, and you're not built for it, you have not practiced it. And I'm going to relay one story I did for a short film, for a student short film, which I did, where if you don't plan properly, and and these are the things that even have been planned, and yet because we didn't practice one thing, the shot was that I was holding down a 12-year-old kid on the couch, and I will punch right in front of her face because I was supposed to be controlling her. And the only thing that we did not consider was that she had long hair, and as part of the plot, there is a chopstick that she used to tie her long hair, and she stabbed it behind her hair. The reason why for the chopstick is part of the plot is that she will eventually take out the chopstick and stab my eye with it. But because she had that when I was fighting her, it's very hard. We planned the shot. We knew that was coming, but we didn't practice it on the couch itself. We practiced it like me and you, like facing each other, just doing a punch, and then we know that that's what we're doing to do. But with the actual shot itself, when I pin her down on the couch, when I did my swing, because of her chopstick, she had to lift her head and turn her head, like getting hit. And that's where it happened. So, because the chopstick was preventing her from turning her head. So when I did my swing, and it was a very hard one because it had to look real, she lifted her head. As she lifted her head, I clipped her face. And this was the accident that actually happened on set. And of course, she cried, being a 12-year-old, and having a 30-year-old man, punching her from the right with a certain excessive force is kind of damaging. But what we're more worried about is making sure that she doesn't have a bruise. Because if she does have a bruise, then we have to stop filming. Sorry about that.
And you told me that she was okay in the end, Mike.
She was okay in the end. She even got her revenge, because the next shot that we needed to do was that they had to tape the straw with the chopstick right beside my face, and having the angle on the side so that you only see the chopstick entering and exiting out my head, and the rest are all CG. She has to kick right in front of my face, and because of that, she really kicked right here, and so she got her revenge in that sense. It hurt a bit, but at least it made her happy, and she was and she was okay with it after that, in that sense. No. Being a stunt guy, you definitely have to take hits like that, but the good thing was the shot was actually good enough, was quite good that because she made contact with her face, so it was really quite real, and the reaction from the stunt person actually is quite real, because it's an actual hit. It's actually painful. It's not it's not something that I have to act on. And that was what happened in that scene. So be careful when you do practice, and do an actual look through the camera and see if you have. I mean, obviously, if you're a stunt director and you have a stunt coordinator on set, it's easier. One can handle the choreography and the actual take itself, whereas the stunt director can look at the camera and see what's happening, and you have to kind of rehearse all that. Imagine if you're going to insert a a shot that you have not thought about, and that happens, and that happens all the time when they insert shots that have never been planned.
Yes, I've always been a big fan of shooting a previs, and for a number of reasons, not just so that I can show the director and go, this is how it's going to look like at the end. And so it also helps saying this is where the cameras need to be as well. Otherwise, the choreo doesn't work, because if you don't have the cameras where I've got them, then I need to change which side they're punching or which side they're kicking if they move the cameras. I also know it edits together.
Yeah.
And I also do it so if there's an actor rather than stuntmen, then they can copy it to practice.
Exactly. And that's quite important, as you mentioned, to have the camera positions in terms of where you need to be at, because you need to, in action, we are not really hitting anyone. They're all fake. If you guys do not know, and none of the action shots are fake. None of the guns are real. None of the action shots are real. None of the guns are real. None of the hits are real. They're all fake. They're all being played very well. And and it happened that one of the shots that I did for 2025, I was doing the safety for the stunt actor who he was being thrown or kicked into a set of boxes or furniture, and I padded it with a lot of box, and the way I built it, it's so tight that the box itself couldn't be crushed. So when I think I still have the shot somewhere. When the actor fell onto the box, it actually landed on the box itself, and the box did not even crush. So we had to cut it up a bit, redo some of this stuff again. If you have not practiced or rehearsed some of this stuff, and you do, and a good thing was, if you have worked with the DOP, it's easier to tell him exactly where the shots are being taken. If not, he has to spend another 20-30 minutes just to go around the set figuring out how we're going to shoot the film, the shot itself. Of course, there are certain creativity that's given to the DOP as well. That we need this shot. This is how we're going to shoot it, and he might find a new angle that's close enough to that. We are quite flexible in that, but at least where things needs to be. And if you have an experienced DOP, especially with action, you have to kind of go in there and they have to figure out, okay, does this look okay? Does it look good? Does it hide the action? Then you need 3 different directors to come on to the camera and see, okay, can we shoot it like this? Can we do that? And then we get the actors in the blocking position to see whether, if they do certain actions, will it be seen? Will it not be seen? And in 2025, we have to shoot a cyborg, in a sense that he has a super, a kind of a external exoskeleton that helps him become stronger. And when he kicks someone had to fly 20 feet, in one direction, and he crushes some box. It's the same thing we did as well. And this is where the DOP decide, okay, I'm going to climb above the gym. We were shot in a gym, so this gym equipment which I've tied the rope to pull the guy with around it. So when we did a rehearsal, we pulled it quite hard and the thing shook. He had a $200,000 camera with him, and and he feared for his life. He doesn't fear for his life. He feared for the camera because it's expensive, right? And that's why we got to make sure that some of this happens. I mean, we eventually got a shot in a different angle, but a DOP who knows what he's doing and what he's trying to shoot, he wants to try a certain angle, but again, certain angles do not work because safety is a reason. But he still captured a shot in a certain way that helped with the whole shooting of the film. But again, all these things happen on set, and if you let it go and not look at some of this aspect of the things, and you shoot and you decide just go for it, and we had a lot of accidents that way many times. And you do not have a good rigger, someone who can rig ropes, to pull, and somebody who shows that, like I mentioned, you kick someone, he flies 20 feet behind him. Usually it's all fake. We pull a rope, which we will delete that rope later in over CG. No green screen required as well. a DOP who has done that before also knows that they have to capture two shots. One shot is a blank shot. It's a setup shot where you shoot the entire scene so they can overlay into the. And that's where the editor, the DOP sometimes need to be on set to actually review the shot that needs to be done. And we don't ever rush through a scene or shot ever, for many reasons. One is, this coordination in terms of editing, overlay, safety, shots, and the actors themselves in terms of how they need to prepare to actually fall, because falling 20 feet behind you is not an easy thing to do. If you are new to it, you have not done it before, it becomes something that's very anxious, especially when you're working with a non-stunt actor or a non-martial arts person who has actually fought in an actual ring before, who knows what pain is, how to manage the pain and all that. It becomes quite hard to shoot that, and you will get actors, saying that I do not want to do this shot, and that ruins the whole day.
Yes,
After hours and hours of planning. Yeah, sorry.
I find in my stage combat classes or my fight choreography classes, for new people, something that's very common is for shooting for film, is everyone thinks closer is better. So when they're going for a punch, they think if they really get it as close as they can to the other person's face, it'll look better. Where in actual fact, if the camera is in the right spot, it'll look just as good from 4 or 5 inches away or 20 centimeters away. It'll still look great, and it's a lot safer.
Exactly. I think one principle that we always follow is that if you cannot have contact shots, you don't have contact shots. If you cannot rush the shot, don't rush the shot, because all these aspects, have a lot of implications into it. And as a stunt coordinator, we have to look good on screen at the same time with our stunt actors. So we do not want a shot that's badly shot and that they either end up on a cutting room floor or end up on screen, and then we get out. We don't get credit, and we get credited for it, but it looks so bad that we do not want to be associated with it. I mean, the one of the few things we always have to look out for, in terms of safety, was also camera as well, and especially when you're shooting very near reflective spaces, that you need to really watch that. And I've done that in a seal lab, in a coffee shop. In coffee shops you have a lot of shiny metal, aluminum pots and pans, and we have to make sure that when the camera does swing over, or when you do throw somebody over the counter, which is fully metallic, you gotta make sure that it's either hidden in some way, or that it is not shot. You don't see the crew behind it, and everybody's waiting to catch the actress when she's falling. Yeah, sorry.
Very important. Another thing that I know that you're a fan of, because we've discussed it before, is doing live sound effects. For example, when I punch, instead of just punching and we put in a sound effect later, you can get the actor to go and we can do live sound effects, and it helps with the performance as well.
Correct. So yeah, sound in action is difficult to do, and a lot of people, a lot of directors and editors, depending on their direction and how they want to do it, usually take this off the live sound and do a voiceover later, or a sound effect on the editing. But as fighters, we need to do that in the sense that we warn the person that we're coming. Usually we just say and then we go for the punch. Then at least the actors or the people who's doing the action, they know there's a punch coming. Although they do not know whether it's a punch. I mean, they will already know whether it's a punch or a kick because we have rehearsed that. But the biggest question is always to warn the person, and how do we do it? And in the fight scene is the easiest, because it's natural for us to shout before we punch, and therefore it's easier it's safer to do that when you do shout. And if not, we actually remind all the actors to shout when they punch, so that it becomes a warning. And if you look at most of the films today, or the previous films that you've seen before, most of the actors will shout before especially the older Chinese ones, they normally have a lot of things they will do before a punch really comes. And you see that a lot in the Jackie Chan's movies as well. And you know, especially the older ones like Drunken Master and all that, you see just before a punch comes or a kick or some kind of movement, his team will shout just to warn him, I'm coming.
Yeah, it's a great cue, isn't it?
Correct. And if you work and you fight in a group, and this is where, you know, some of this nice action comes in, is when one person fights 10 people. Now, how do you know who is going to come next? You actually know who's going to come next. It's just that, you know, the cue to say that, hey, I'm coming now, you know, and therefore, even if the person forgets the choreography, he knows, you know, there's a direction, general direction of where the things are coming from, and he might either trigger what he's supposed to do, or his martial arts will come, you know, will kick in. You know, he knows there's something comes in, and even if it's not planned, he can avoid it and not get hurt. And we can do a retake of another if you forget a choreography, but at least you're not hurt for the next take for it, which is more important than forgetting the choreography itself.
Yes, and another thing that we've discussed is if you do have control of the dialogue, the script, is have them talk before the fight scene, have them talk after the fight scene. Maybe they can stop in the middle and talk, but don't have any talking during the fight scene if you can avoid
Correct.
it. It's too hard to
Yeah.
edit.
Yeah, you don't be. I mean, I know even professional actors make the same mistakes. If you look at the Star Wars behind the scenes or the cuts or the blooper reels, you see, you know, most of the actors holding a lightsaber will go zoom, zoom, and all that, and they make the sound effects for itself. Edwin McGregor even admitted to it half the time, and as stunt actors, we do that as well. We go bish bish. You know, you don't have to do that action sound because it will be there. It will be added into the editing side of things. And as an actor, you don't have to do. But I've seen actors, especially either new stunt actors or actors has no background in doing this, has ruined takes because, you know, they go bish and bush and all kind of sound effects that's natural to them. Yes. And I have, you know, some people coming to the actors and say, hey, stop doing that, you know, don't add sound effects.
Yes, they're fun in the martial arts dojo, but not so good for the filming.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Now, I think we'll start to wrap it up. What about some advice for me? So I've been in Singapore about 5 years. I've been working with actors for about 4 years, teaching them fight choreography. But I've been having a bit of trouble breaking into the local film scene, especially doing fight directing. Do you have any tips for me?
Yeah, so in Singapore especially, the film industry is all about relationships, and you have to make the connections, and it's true everywhere, though, not just Singapore. But Singapore is small. It's a small country, therefore, you know, there's only that many people who can do stuff like that, and it's better to bond together, to work with the same people, the people who are doing the same thing. I mean, of course, obviously, if you want, I've got connections with people like Sunny Pang and the likes, and they can actually, you know, work together to see how things can be done together. Because I think stunt acting and stunt performance are not that many in Singapore, and yet there are a lot of other rules that we can get into later in Channel 5 and what they can. And I spoke about how they do not want too realistic fights or too realistic sound effects for certain films or certain shows that they have.
Yes, and you mentioned there's different insurance coverage required for international films shooting in Singapore as well.
Correct, and how, you know, handle guns and all that. So there are only like there's only two companies in Singapore that is allowed to do gun management or weaponry, especially guns. One was Prop Guns USG, which is a good friend of mine, which is Eugene. I'm not doing a plug for him, but if you need contacts, let me know. Yep. They have a range of airsoft guns, which fires like a real gun. except that it uses air instead of uses actual bullets or even blanks. There's another one that is very close to Channel 5, and he's been the sole license holder for a long time, and he's the only guy that will be on set when guns are being managed, and because he knows he's a monopoly, he kind of being monopolies, as you know, tend to have that overcharging capacity, and they are able to throw their weight around. So this other friend of mine who's actually working with Sunny Pang as well, who actually has the license to do airsoft. So airsoft is great because you don't have to reload any blank bullets. You reload gas canisters into the guns, and you can fire either in rapid succession or you can fire in single succession. They have handguns or machine guns.
Great, and you'd be able to avoid those government restrictions too, would you?
Correct. Yes, it is, because when we shot real bullets, like what I did in Hitman for Hollywood, who shot it in Robinson Road, they are only allowed to bring in 200 bullets, whereas they requested for 2,000 bullets, and you don't have, and of course the producer came up to us and said, this is ridiculous, because then they cannot use a machine gun and fire up, across the entire street. They only have to do, and Rupert Fine was driving the car. We have a stuntman from Action Horizon driving the car actions and all that, and he has to spin his car around and then come out of the car and shoot six assassins that's going after him. And because we cannot do like what we do in Hollywood, we go blah 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 blah. He have to be very controlled. He have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wow.
And yeah, exactly. And of course that would and either enhance the shot or really makes it very terrible, because it's very unbelievable that he can do that. But he's a hitman from the game, so he should be able to do something like that.
Yeah, it's not his first hit, is it?
Exactly. And the problem was because we shoot blanks in that shot. It is also an experimental gun from Israel. They use a Jericho. I don't remember the model number. A Jericho something that it comes from the game itself. And because we shoot blanks, the blanks can go anywhere. And being the weapons person on set, we have to look at every shot he makes and see where the blanks goes. And right after they yell cut, we run in to collect all the blanks. And there's a rule in Singapore that you have to do. You have to collect all the blanks, whether it's blank or it's not blank.
So when you say blanks, you're talking about the shell casings, aren't you? You get
correct, yeah,
picking them up.
Exactly. And then and that one shot that we did in Robinson Road, one of the blanks went into a drain that we do not know where it went, and it took us like hours and hours until 12 o'clock before we actually can find the shell casing for it.
Right.
We were almost giving up and said that we need to stop. We're getting too tired. We were there on set for the whole day preparing for the shoot, and then when we finished, we had to go look for a blank for a shell casing.
Right, because you got to give the 200 shell casings back to the government to prove, do you?
Correct, and it's actually, you go through a separate security company. They are because they are the ones signing for it. They are the ones who will say yes, we received the 200 shell casings that were approved for this shot. Right. So they want to they will record every serial number, and if we find one missing, we will have to report it to the police. It will take even longer. It's already 12 midnight at that time. We do not want to go to the police station, put a statement, and then go home at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we have a shoot the next morning. So, we kind of had to, we wanted to do that, but just before we gave up, somebody found that shell in the drain that we picked up, and then we all went home happy in that sense. But yeah, stuff like that happens. So with an airsoft gun, and airsoft are banned in Singapore. Even the knives that I use are banned in Singapore.
Right.
But yeah. And so airsoft, although banned, they're the only one who gets the license to actually shoot it. So if handguns are easy. Machine guns obviously are bigger, and you need to know how to handle it in that sense. And stunt acting is not just about martial arts. It's about being, most of the time you're being called to do police. You're being called to do SWAT. SWAT is like 90% of the time. And in order to move like a SWAT team, you have to train for it. You have to have the team to do that. And you can sell all that to a director in the sense that, these are the capabilities. So you have to keep producing short films or produce short show reels that you can shoot to every director, every production house, and say that, okay, if you need a team of people who do this, who can do either stunt acting, police, SWAT, and give them that show reel, and so that they will remember you the next time they want to do something like that.
Great.
And again, yeah, you have to have your connections. If you need the guns tomorrow, to certain people, you need to know where to get those guns, and how you can actually use that for the set. And again, that could be a selling point for you to the directors as well, and say, I know these connections. I can bring in machine guns or shotguns or handguns for the shot that you need. And most of the shot, because of the rules that they have in MediaCorp, you don't get anything more advanced than a revolver, the one with the six rounds.
Right. Yes, because they're all cop shows, aren't they? All police shows.
Correct. Yeah, and it has to be the old type ones, and when take up and you do that kind of action.
Yeah, nice. Well, thanks, Mike. I think we might call it a day, huh? And
right.
I was going to suggest, well, it's actually your suggestion, that we might ask viewers to comment below if they have any questions for you or myself, and we'll do a follow-up video.
Sure, that'd be great.
We'll respond to their questions.
Yeah, we're looking forward to all the questions that you have. Anything. Nothing is is too far or extreme for us. I think between the two of us and other people in the group as well, I know who has experience in stunt acting and stunt performing. We can always try to answer those questions in a part 2 or another session or a live session, or with somebody else in there if we want to.
Yes. So please comment below, ask some questions, and we won't just type back. We'll make a video.
Yeah. And if you can, we'll bring out some demonstrations or some video demonstrations of it.
Yeah. Even if we have to pull up old footage.
Old footage, yeah.
All right. Well,
all right.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you, everyone. Stay safe and stay upright and respect.